The cosmic side of the MCU is still an element that hasn't been explored to its full potential, but really that's only a matter of time. The franchise continues to expand into parts unknown, and today I wanted to talk directly about just how powerful the cosmic side of things really are. I mean, Earth has every right to be nervous when you have huge cosmic forces like Galactus or the Phoenix Force out there, right? But what are the most powerful cosmic forces in the Marvel Universe? And how could they affect the MCU later on? Well, let's discuss all of that right now. Look, the Phoenix Force is super powerful. I just want to state that very clearly here at the beginning. But maybe the reason it's placed at the bottom of this list is because as powerful as it is, it does have one huge weakness: live action adaptations. Seriously, it's one of the most powerful cosmic forces in the entire universe, but the moment you try to place it in a live action movie, then it immediately fizzles out. The fact that Fox bungled the first attempt at the Dark Phoenix storyline in X-Men: The Last Stand, but then tried again later in the Dark Phoenix movie only to fail again, perhaps in more spectacular fashion, is just incredible. But maybe the reason these live action adaptations flopped was that they didn't give enough time to showcasing how awesome and dangerous the Phoenix Force could be. In the comics, this force represents life that has not been born and is said to be the fire from which all things started from. It's hard to necessarily tell if that's true because, as you'll see from this list of powerful cosmic characters, it seems like mostly all of them predate the universe and are trying to hold on to the title of oldest thing ever, but that's just a minor quibble. The Phoenix Force has always had the goal of burning away what doesn't work, and also just loves merging with people. Obviously, Jean Grey is the most famous mergerer? Most famous person the Phoenix Force has merged with. But she's not the only one, as there's been a lot of hosts for this all-powerful cosmic force. Sometimes opinions on the Phoenix Force have been split. One time there was an X-Men vs. Avengers storyline which saw the Phoenix Force coming to Earth for another merge, and the X-Men were all like, heck yeah, that's awesome. And the Avengers were like, could the all-powerful, dangerous cosmic force that could arguably destroy everything not come to Earth if possible? Chaos ensued, punches were thrown. It was bad for our superheroes, but great for the readers. And I still stand by the idea of that type of Avengers versus the X-Men storyline based around the Phoenix Force would not only be a great conflict in the MCU, but also be a great way to reintroduce the Phoenix Force after 2 failed attempts. I wanted this list to be all-encompassing, so before I really start diving into the larger-than-life cosmic entities that have the power to reshape reality and all that fun stuff, I wanted to discuss some slightly more neutral cosmic characters to show not only how big the universe can be, but also how some of these cosmic characters can really shake things up in the MCU going forward if the franchise chooses to bring them in. So that brings me to Knull, the big king in black. Knull is the creator of the symbiotes and basically the god of darkness. He was born in Omaha, Nebraska, and he was born from the primordial void that existed between the 6th and 7th cosmos. My bad, I always get those confused. But Knull is no joke. He once created a sword out of the first symbiote and used it to decapitate a celestial. Yeah, the dude does not mess around. He was at the center of the King in Black comic series just a little while ago, where he got to strut his stuff. But while Knull may not be invited to the big kids table when it comes to all-powerful cosmic beings, he's still a major threat. And I can't help but wonder how the MCU or the Sonyverse, or the combo of the two, can incorporate the baddie. There will most likely be a Venom 3, and Knull would logically be the next villain for Eddie Brock and his BFF to face, right? But could the two face him alone? Or would Knull require Venom to recruit Morbius, Kraven the Hunter, Madam Web, and that one new guy who flies really well, I guess, to fight him? That'd be fun, right? Okay, this general cosmic character only made this list for potential. That's why he's so low. I'm talking about Hulkling. Yeah, on a straight power level, Hulkling doesn't really compare to a lot of people on this list, but the fact that he's one of the most important figures in the ever-escalating Kree and Skrull War, I think earns him a spot on this list. He is the prophesized unifier of the two powerful races, and that makes him invaluable. Those two alien groups seem to be locked in universe-engulfing shenanigans all the time, and as their war slowly infects all corners of the universe, someone like Hulkling, who's half Kree and half Skrull, holds a lot of power. Who knows if the MCU follows through on Hulkling's storyline, but I hope they do. Anyone who's read the original Infinity Gauntlet comic storyline knows that one major character was missing from the MCU's adaptation of the story. Adam Warlock was crucial in that storyline overall, but the MCU hadn't introduced the character yet. Adam is known for a lot of things over his many years in the comics, including elements like the whole Magus aspect, who's a future evil version of Warlock from the future, which is always fun. He's on this list because he's a vital part of a lot of big cosmic stories, and I felt he deserved a shout out. It's going to be fascinating seeing the character make his debut in live action in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Do you guys think he'll become as important to the MCU as he in the comics? Tough call. Okay, I promise we're getting to the big guys, but I wanted to include just one more really fun entry. 3 words: Cosmic Ghost Rider. Listen to this backstory. So, in another universe, when Thanos came to Earth to conquer it, Frank Castle was mortally wounded and actually sent to Hell. This version of Frank was so upset over this development that he made a deal with Mephisto to become the new Ghost Rider to get revenge on Thanos. So he goes back to Earth only to find Thanos already gone, and the world was basically a desolate wasteland with no one left. After years of being alone on Earth like this, an injured Galactus shows up and needs help beating Thanos. One thing leads to another, and this Punisher version of Ghost Rider suddenly becomes a new herald for Galactus, and basically becomes the Cosmic Ghost Rider. That's quite a story. Now, I just know we'll never ever see that in the MCU, but a guy can dream, right? Okay, if we knew more about the Infinites, then maybe I'd place them higher on this list, but because they're still so mysterious and surprisingly enigmatic, I'm putting them here on this list. The Infinites are basically higher dimensional entities who pop up every once in a while to make sure the flow of energy and time and space are all working properly. They feel like that one boss you might have who's super hands-off, but then shows up every once in a while to suggest a radical change and then nope out. Like in the past, they've popped up wanting to destroy all the planets and stars in the Milky Way in order to rebuild them to make sure the universe was working efficiently. Obviously, this caused an issue for everyone living there, but don't worry, it all worked out. But yeah, the Infinites are powerful cosmic beings who probably deserve a better fleshing out at some point in the comics. The cosmic being known as the Stranger has such an interesting backstory because it's hard to know what's real or not. He originally claimed to be an ancient being who had the combined strength and intellect of the billions of lives living on the planet Gigantus who all merged together, but then he later claimed that he wasn't that specific being, but rather found the actual person he claimed to be and accidentally eliminated him and took his place. Sure, comics are wild, but just because there's some discrepancies in his overall story, it doesn't mean he's a slouch. One of his most impressive claims to fame is that he actually created Ego the Living Planet. Yeah, so in the comics, the Stranger merged a scientist named Egros with every living thing orbiting his home star through a nova. So that's fun. He also has said before that he's been manipulating the evolution of mutants on Earth for years, but that's been up for disputes. Still, he's an interesting fella. With the introduction of the Eternals in the MCU, it's clear that the franchise wants to expand its cosmic section out more. The Celestials have always been on the outskirts of the MCU, mentioned briefly here and there throughout the first few phases, but we finally got a good look at one of them in the flesh. Okay, I don't know what they're exactly made out of, but I'm trying to say that we saw Arishem the Judge in Eternals. And true to his name, he definitely wants to judge things. Now, in the Marvel comics, Celestials are these powerful cosmic entities, but they feel like small potatoes compared to some of the others on this list. I wonder if the MCU will follow suit and have the Celestials be stepping stones to greater cosmic forces, or if the MCU Celestials will be the top dogs in the universe for a bit. But anyways, I'm just very curious to see how the Celestials are incorporated and if they're going to be mad about the whole not being able to use Earth as an eggplant from the Eternals movie. Now for the fellow that needs no introduction, Galactus. The giant purple planet eater is one of the greatest Marvel characters ever, and we've all been waiting to see just how the MCU brings the character into the fold. We did see Galactus in live action once before, but that was from a movie no one likes to talk about, and the character is in need of some redemption. Though I will say, I think it's going to be hard to adapt this character faithfully in the MCU. So the Galactus in the comics is actually the sole survivor of the previous version of the multiverse. You know, because the universe actually always goes through a multiverse renewal cycle type of thing. Yeah, so anyway, at the end of this version of the multiverse, an all-powerful sentient of the multiverse merged its essence with a mortal named Galen, and thus Galactus was created, and basically survived to carry over into the next renewal cycle. The problem though is that becoming an all-powerful holdover from the previous universe meant Galactus got hungry a lot, and therefore had to devour planets to satiate his appetite. That sounds bad, but more modern Galactus stories Comics sees the entity as less of a villain and more like some sort of cosmic rebalancer. Long story short, Galactus rules, and as much as I don't want him anywhere near Earth, I still hope he shows up soon. By themselves, the embodiments of the universe are already uber powerful, but you put these wacky siblings together and you have one of the most powerful forces in the universe. You have eternity, infinity, oblivion, and death, and they sort of represent the yin and yang of one another. Like, while eternity and infinity represent the changing nature of reality, oblivion and death are on the opposite end of the spectrum and represent the end of all things. And look, I'm no sitcom producer, but I would love to see these four have to meet up and live together in a New York City apartment together somewhere. That could be a Disney Plus show, right? Nemesis is a character you might not be as familiar with, as they aren't as well known as the other big cosmic beings, but they're arguably one of the most important for the universe. So originally, Nemesis was the only being that existed, which is both a good and bad thing. Anyways, because Nemesis felt lonely, they took a part of themselves and gave it an independent life, which was nice until the creation turned evil and Nemesis was forced to destroy it. Feeling bummed out about everything, Nemesis decided to end their life, and through that act, they created the Infinity Gems alongside most of reality. There was a resurrection a bit later, and its powers included everything the Infinity Gems could do, which we all know are super powerful. The Beyonder is just a delightful character who comes from an omnipotent alien race that exists outside of the multiverse. Man, can you imagine the MCU in 8-ish years or so, just when we're getting used to the concept of the multiverse, they go ahead and introduce the concept of dimensions that exist outside the multiverse? That's going to be crazy. Anyways, the Beyonder comes from there, and he's caused all sorts of trouble in Marvel Comics. Most famously, he orchestrated Secret Wars and transported a ton of heroes and villains to Battleworld for his amusement. And I'm still holding out hope we'll get an adaptation of that someday. Anyways, I put the Beyonder here because he's often a bit curious for his own good. Like, he could very well be the most powerful figure in the universe, but he tends to be caught up from time to time trying to comprehend and understand free will. And you know what I found out? His weakness is actually time travel. The Beyonder was once described as being restricted to their own timeline, so he can't join in all the time-hopping adventures all the Avengers love to get up to. I wonder if we're eventually leading to the introduction of the Living Tribunal in the MCU. In the comics, this cosmic entity had the sole job of protecting the multiverse from different threats. This means he's the one you call if one universe seems to be getting too big for its britches, or if there's one universe with more evil than good or more good than evil. He's the ultimate unbiased entity who really just wants everything to flow and function in an efficient way. He's most famous for having 3 faces, each with a distinct voice. The main face represents equity, the face on the right represents necessity, and the one on the left represents revenge. Yeah, I'm sure we all talk to ourselves from time to time, but this is an extreme example of that. Once all 3 faces agree that there's a problem, then the Living Tribunal intervenes. I would like there to be a version of the Living Tribunal in the MCU. The multiverse is only going to continue to expand, and it would be nice to know that there's a force like the Living Tribunal out there keeping things in order. But of course, if What If is truly canon, or if Kang starts messing up the multiverse, then it's kind of weird we haven't seen him step up yet. Protege is so high on this list because of all the potential the character has. Originally, the character was a cosmic entity that was the childlike ruler of the Universal Church of Truth, but it's her powers that would vault her to near the top of this list. Protege has the power to duplicate the powers of other entities. And sure, we've seen that a bunch in Marvel Comics, but this is on a whole different level. Protege can actually mimic the powers of entities like the Living Tribunal and shape the multiverse in her image. So yes, I put the entity that can absorb almost any other entity's powers at the top of the list because in the right circumstances, that's practically unbeatable. Of course, the one above all is at the top of this list. They're the one above all. Their power levels are in the name itself. They are truly above all. The one above all is the ruler of the multiverse and is overall the source of love and good everywhere. Very rarely do we see the one above all show up, and when they do, it's only for matters of extreme importance. Well, sort of. One time he appeared to Spider-Man when Aunt May was on the verge of death and helped him accept it as a natural part of life, which in the grand scheme of things, feels like something he really should have been too busy for. The one above all is basically the father of the Living Tribunal, the embodiments of the universe, everything. One time in the comics, when the Fantastic Four encountered him, he took the shape of a comic book writer that bore a striking resemblance to famed Marvel comic creator Jack Kirby. If the one above all is ever introduced in the MCU, then yeah, I think they should honor the comic legacy and keep it similar to either Jack Kirby or Stan Lee, but also, because it's the MCU, I wouldn't be surprised if the one above all had more of a Kevin Feige shape. What do you think would be better? I hope with the introduction of the multiverse, the cosmic side of our universe doesn't get overshadowed. It's such a vast universe out there. It would be a shame if we didn't explore it to its fullest potential, right? What are some of the cosmic characters you want to see most in the MCU? Let me know.